everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Black Tea. This is the podcast that is all about Black women in advertising. I'm your host, as usual, Michelle Lawrence, and I'm very pleased to be here today with Nicole Simpson. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
I'm so excited to have you here. I hate to be one of those now more than ever people, because I hate that phrase, but now more than ever, I think we need to set the record straight on exactly what you do. So why don't you go ahead and tell folks what you do and where you're based?
So I am the director of DE&I for RAPP US. That is an Omnicom agency, one of the big three holding companies. And I'm based in New Jersey. I live near the Jersey Shore. And I work out of our New York or Jersey City office, depending on the day.
Okay, cool. So you just said it, but we'll reiterate it that you are in the DE&I space. For those that are just maybe living under a rock, I don't know. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And woo, child, your department has been under attack lately. Let's just take a step back and remind people, if you could, what is the mission of diversity, equity, and inclusion? What is the point of your department?
So my goal with being a practitioner is that I can give my employees a larger sense of self so they really understand themselves so they can care about the person next. Because my main goal is to make sure that everyone feels a sense of belonging, that we have equity, that people feel included, and that we have a diverse workforce. And I think, just to dive right in, a lot of people get stuck on that diverse word and they make certain assumptions about what that means. And they think about things like race, gender, sexual orientation, maybe ability. But diversity is so much more than that. It's diversity in thought. It's diversity in your socioeconomic background, your age, your invisible or visible disability, all of these things that make us really uniquely ourselves, and helping people understand, how do you work with someone who's from a different generation, who speaks a different language than you? How do you work with someone who has a different cultural upbringing than you do and has different nuances that they bring with them to the workforce? How do we teach you how to talk to each other?
Yeah.
How, if you are anxiously attached, as those who understand your attachment style, if you're anxiously attached in your real life, how does that translate to your work life? And so what does that mean in terms of what you need from a boss, from your coworkers, right? So really helping people understand all these different layers of who we are and how those meld together in the workforce.
Yeah. I love that, because the way you're describing it is much more communal and more interrelational than I think we think about it. I feel like DEI is being used as a term to talk about more individuals. And I would love to just get your feedback on that, because it's the confusing thing to me is no one can be, even if we just talk about diversity, no one can be diverse by themselves, right? Like that doesn't make sense. Diversity is, a lot of different things, a lot of different people. If you are one person, you are not in and of yourself diverse, no matter what your background, right? So I just want to get your opinion on why you think the backlash is happening. I know we saw this big enthusiasm toward diversity, equity, and inclusion right around the start of the pandemic in 2020. And now here we are just a few years later, and it feels like everyone is backing away from that term. Why, in your opinion, is that happening? And then how and why should companies hold the line with DEI and keep looking forward?
I think there are multiple things happening at once. So you have a small minority of folks who are using the legal system to go after specific DE&I programs, companies, initiatives, all of these things. And they are making it costly for companies and institutions to continue to fight that fight. So I think part of the backing off is, well, we don't want to be held liable for these programs that we're running. So I think you see that. from a litigation standpoint.
Wow.
And then you just touched on, there was this huge uprising during George Floyd's murder and the subsequent months after that. I think we were all at home. We could all see very clearly, and all of us were bonded through this other traumatic experience that we were having. And so you saw this lightning in a bottle happen of people really caring about something all together, all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And companies were recognizing, oh, well, we have to be able to have a response to this because our consumers are asking us to have a response to this. So I think that with all things, that high has eroded. And now we're seeing who was really about that life
Mm-hmm.
and who was just posting a black square.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of what companies can do, like I just touched on, diversity is never going to go away, ever, because we have the most generations working together in a workforce at one time. That's not going to change. We have more people with invisible disabilities than ever before. So if your company is not making sure that those people have the right accommodations, now you're really facing more legal repercussions because those are protected classes.
Mm-hmm.
As far as age is concerned, if we don't, it's not just for the younger generation that we're trying to make things equitable for, it's the older generations as well, right? So I think companies have to get really smart about the language that they're using. This is why y'all pay a lot of money for really good legal counsel, and your legal counsel can help you find ways to continue your equitable practices without making you a target. So I think you have to get creative. I am a former paralegal, so I bring some of that legal expertise into what I do. So I have a really interesting vantage point, I think, because of that experience. And so I find ways to creatively create change while making sure to mitigate our risk as well. So I think companies just have to get creative, and they also have to just hold the line. I understand that it's scary. I understand that you're up against backlash, but that backlash, if you actually look at it, is from a really small percentage of the population, because the rest of the population understands that diversity makes us stronger. And if we're just talking dollars, it makes your companies more money. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, numbers tend not to lie. So
Yeah, but you got to look at the numbers, people, to hear what they're
yes,
saying. Um, that's you mentioned creativity and bringing that into the fold, and I want to talk more about that because I know that you believe that intersectional perspectives, diverse perspectives, and ideas should be included in the creative process. I'm wondering what are some of the ways that you have seen that happen, and it's been like great. You know what I mean? Like I'm wondering if there have been instances where you've seen that really pay off and make the work that much more creative that you might be able to talk about.
we are in the midst of the Olympics, and I don't know if you've been watching any of the ads coming out of it, but they've been pretty remarkable. I think that's a beautiful example of how diversity really works in terms of making sure that the voices that you're using are authentic, the stories you're telling are respectful and authentic and creative, and push the envelope and think beyond the box. I'm thinking specifically of the Nike ad that was just released. I'm thinking of the Mercedes ad with that beautiful still shot of Simone and that beautiful split, and they made her into the Mercedes Benz
Yeah.
sign. The women are really showing up during the Olympics right now, and translating that into ads is a beautiful way to make people feel represented, to make them feel seen and heard. So I love the work that's coming out with the games right now. It's just really giving me life. It's amazing. The
Um,
other ad I'll mention
yes,
too
go
is the Powerade ad with Simone,
ahead.
with about her mental health journey. In her voiceover, she's talking about some of her mental health struggles, and they're showing clips of her and her journey. And it's not an overt Powerade ad, but Powerade is kind of like in the background. But it was just a really powerful way, I think, to articulate something that really goes undiscussed a lot, which is mental health. It's been pretty stigmatized. I think that's lessening, thankfully, with our generation and younger generations.
Mhm.
But I just thought it was a beautiful depiction of authentic storytelling and doing it in a way that is really respectful of the topic and how serious it is.
I agree that the Olympics, I think, helps to broaden our horizons at least temporarily. So hopefully people can remember that we like different stuff. We like different people. That
Do.
it's important. I would love to hear about how you've sort of made an impact where you are in terms of getting these ideas and these diverse perspectives included throughout the creative process. What has that looked like for you at your company?
So I think that it's not enough for me just to come up with resources and just give them to my teams and say, okay, go and run, right? I
Mhm.
think what's really worked for my agency is me having really amazing dialogues with people one-on-one and creating other forums for dialogues. So, for example, I host office hours once a month, which is not for people to come complain. Don't get
Mhm.
it twisted. But it's for people to come and just like have human conversations. And some of the things that have come out of that have spurred um, different thinking amongst team members, new ideas for initiatives. And so I'd say just me having such a connection with my folks has really, really helped because we can have just simple conversation, but both of us can take something away with how to think differently and then bringing that back to our own corners of the world in our own disciplines is where the real change happens. I can advise, I can give tools, but it's the people that are really doing the work day to day that are really going to make the most impact. So I've just found that having some really open and honest conversation makes some really beautiful work happen.
I'm sure that you've noticed DE&I is being used in a pejorative manner in some very public spaces. And I feel like it's causing Black people to sort of tend to want to resist or refute that term. But that's kind of also, I feel like, confirming the incorrect narrative of what DE&I is. So how do you respond? How should we respond when people use it as an insult?
So interesting. I spend a lot of time on Reddit. I don't know if you've hung out in any of those communities, but some really interesting conversations can happen. And I find most people um, they want to have real honest dialogue. So it's not just like a free for all like Twitter can be sometimes or
Mhm.
X, whatever it's called these days.
I'll never call.
And I've actually had this exact conversation on Reddit with some folks in the leadership community. We're talking about DE&I in a way of pushing back against like quotas and feeling like people are getting positions at their companies that they don't deserve.
Mhm.
And so I find that if you can really have an honest conversation about, well, what are you actually saying?
Mhm.
Right? So are you saying that the person who is a Black gay man is not as qualified as the white cis heterosexual man? And why? Are you making the assumption that they're underqualified because they come from these marginalized backgrounds? Because if that is your assumption, then that is where you're going wrong. I don't believe, and I sincerely hope that this is not the case, that companies are just like, oh, there's a Black guy. Yeah, we need one of those. I
Mhm.
don't, I don't believe that's happening because as we've discussed, companies care about the bottom line. So what I care about is that my hiring managers get to see a diverse slate of candidates, and then they can make the decision based on what's best for their team. But what I don't want is for other people around on that team to look at diverse hires and say, well, they're just here because, you know, they look this way or they're from this protected class. That's just not the case. At least it's not for my agency and it's not for any of the companies that I've had the pleasure of working for. So I think it's just taking away that assumption that hiring somebody who is not white, male, cisgender, heterosexual, that means that person is lesser than. We have to let that mindset go and just think and talk about, well, how is this person adding to our company in a way that we need? What perspective is this person bringing to our business that we really need? I love the repositioning of the DE&I hire. I think we've seen some of that on Black Twitter.
Yeah.
With people adopting it to swap out for another word, which we will not say.
Yeah.
And it's been hilarious because that's what we do, right? We bring levity to moments like this. But again, I want to remind y'all that the people using this term in a pejorative way are in the minority. They are just dominating the media.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a hot topic, because it riles people up, because it gets views and clicks. It's a very small percentage of people that are using this term in a pejorative way. So just want to remind y'all.
That's good to be reminded of, because honestly, I feel like our expectations are a little bit on the floor currently for just like our society. I don't know. I don't think that we hold our society in high regards and we trust them to really be thinking in a forward-thinking way. I think we are all a little bit burned. And I think sometimes that does make us feel like more people suck than how many people actually suck, for lack of a better term. The internet is loud, and
the internet is loud.
They do dominate the conversation a lot, but it might be worth remembering, and you're out here, you see it. So if you're saying that it's not coming up left and right, then maybe we just need to stop giving it so much attention.
That part.
Okay. So people think that y'all are just doing counseling and telling people not to be racist, but you actually do have actual programming, measurable goals, I assume, tangible things that you're doing. Can you give us like, what is the concrete, like sort of day-to-day of a role like yours, especially from a leadership perspective?
I have to be good at working with every single department. And I have to have a strong relationship with every single department because I need them to trust me. I need them to take my counsel. I also need them to invite me in. So the amount of work that takes is, I think, underestimated, because I think people just assume that I'm here just to make people feel better, and that's not the case, right? Like, I'm trying to make systematic change, systemic change. That doesn't just happen because I'm making people feel better about what they're experiencing. So I think people underestimate what's the right word? The forcefulness that you need to be effective in a role like mine. I heard something from a wonderful, wonderful person once who said, I'm not here to change hearts and minds. I'm here to make it expensive for companies to insert your ism here. And that is true, which is, I'm here to hold you accountable, but I'm also going to hold your hand while I'm holding you accountable.
So you're setting the expectation, but you're also helping people to meet them. You know, we have talked at length about some things that are a little bit heavy. So I like to lighten it, a little bit of levity, as you say, our specialty. This is what we do. So you're going to have a dream Black women brunch. It's a table of 5. Who's invited?
Okay.
5 of all, you, or 6 including you.
6 including me. Okay. I'm setting the table. I'm an event designer on the side, so I'm very big on setting the vibes. So yes. I'm setting the table. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So first would probably be Tashonda Brown Duckett.
Who's that?
She is the CEO of TIAA. She is one of the only Black female CEOs of a Fortune 500. She is a force of nature. I saw her at the Black Enterprise Women of Power Conference back in March, and she just blew my mind. I just want to like talk to her for hours and hours. Queen Bee, of course. Gonna stay with the music vein. with SZA because she's my
Mm,
spirit animal and
yeah.
I love her. Kamala
Mm,
because Kamala. I'm gonna go a little random and
okay.
pick Jackie Aina. I just love her so much. She's a Black woman influencer. She started on YouTube before any of this influencer culture started. And she was one of the first Black women that I ever saw that was into makeup that looked like me.
Mm,
And she just is amazing. She also has an amazing line of candles and fragrances at Sephora. They're called Forever Mood. She is a vibe. She just epitomizes Black girl luxury and she's absolute goals. So a little random in that mix, but I think that rounds out my five.
no, I love that. And you also answered a question that I ask everyone, which is Black-owned products that you love. So I'm gonna have to look up Forever Mood because they sound amazing. I love the
Oh
can.
my gosh. The candles just, they're delicious, delicious. Friends and family is about to start a Sephora, so I recommend get a
Oh,
code, go check out some
okay.
candles.
Okay.
The other brands, I'm a big makeup person. So Fenty all the way,
Yeah.
100%.
Mm.
And Danessa Myricks, she's just incredible. Another Black-owned beauty brand. And Pat McGrath will go for the trifecta of the Black-owned beauty brands.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you are glowing today, and I will chalk it up to all those amazing everyone. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on Black Tea. I've appreciated this. It's a much needed conversation now more than ever. And I want to also thank all of you out there for watching this episode of Black Tea. Please go catch up on all our other episodes at musebycleo.com/Black Tea. And if you're not following us on Instagram at Sip Black Tea. And we will see y'all on the next one. Bye.